The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 39.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Thomas Enherho, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper meanings and themes. Today, I'm taking Father Andrew's spot because while we all love the galaxy far, far away, our priests are being excellent stewards of our very own home here. This week, we're giving Father Andrew a break while we're discussing the newest season of The Clone Wars by looking at episodes 3, On the Wings of Kirdax, and episode 4, Unfinished Business. Joining me today on the panel are Mike Creevy. Hello, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. And Andrew Hermes. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, hello.
All right. And so we're going to get started. These two episodes pick up on the story started in the first two of this season, where we're reintroduced to Echo, a trooper everyone thought lost much earlier in the Clone Wars. Before we get into the episodes themselves, however, what are your initial impressions on these two episodes?
Andrew, do you want to kick it off?
Sure, yeah. These are great episodes. These are the latest episodes and the greatest so far this season, in my opinion. The action is dialed up. The storylines are really, we're wrapping up the Bad Batch sort of storyline, and we're heading into newer territory. So I think these first 4 episodes where we're focusing on the Bad Batch, I think it was just a great way to kick off season 7, and these were great characters to spend some time with. And I think it was a perfect amount of time, because I think if we spent too long, dealing with these guys, they would have worn out their welcome. Because they're very surface level type of characters. But I thought it was great. I thought the way they ultimately handled Echo's character was very interesting. And the way they left it off, and like I said, I think these were the best of the bunch so far.
Yeah, I agree, and I think all I would add, and of course we'll get to some of these things later, but it wasn't a whole lot of screen time per se on it, but how they kind of hint and tease a little bit more of the depth of Anakin's sort of downfall.
Definitely,
that it's because when you watch the prequels, it's. What I love about this is I think it really kind of nourishes those in a sense, because I love all the movies, but in episode 3 it always seemed a little bit like his fall just sort of happened so quickly,
right?
Just in that film, and so I think being able to flesh that out in this season is probably going to be pretty cool. And I will say I'm a little apprehensive a tiny bit moving forward, because where we know this has to go. And, connecting, just in 4 episodes, we've had such, these humanity developing and connecting kind of moments and these characters. And I'm like, oh, man, don't do this to me.
That and then the thing that struck me is that there's one moment that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in episode 4, where it was very discordant because the darker tone of this show, of the characters in the show, doesn't match up with the feel that the show has had so far. It's had this kind of light, airy, it's a war drama, but they've been able to mostly keep away from the violence because it's all droids. Well, we're starting to have to change that a little more in these episodes that we're coming up with. So, all right, so let's dive in. Episode 703 opens with the fortune cookie "Survival is one step on the path to living," and we find Anakin, Rex, Echo, and the Bad Batch stuck in a seemingly unsurvivable predicament on Skako Minor, despite Anakin's insistence that the situation is "quote unquote" almost under control.
What a great way to put it. I've never had a boss in my life that would have accepted that. Like, how's it going, Creevy? It's almost under control. What does that mean?
Yeah. And so in the main room, Tech's trying to loose Echo from the mind link, and the rest of the Bad Batch is fending off the Decimator, an orb droid with a seriously menacing name. So what do you guys think about this scene? Mike, you want to start?
Yeah. Well, it was, it had a whole bunch of different things going on, but I think I really just appreciated how they managed to kind of like get that connection with Rex and Echo, but then you do get a little bit of that sense of urgency there. So well timed with Anakin, like touching reunion guys, but like we gotta get out of here.
We gotta move.
And how and I thought it really kind of had me on the edge of my seat, because when they shut those blast doors, they're trying to seal the blast doors up, and then it starts like carving through it, and they're like, okay, let's go to the next one. Just abandon it quick, go to the next one, shut it, try to buy themselves some time. So yeah, I was definitely on the edge of my seat through that whole scene.
Yeah, definitely. That weapon, literally just vaporizes you, so it's it's quite a threat. And what I liked about the scene is just Wrecker being reckless and just making it even worse. Oh
yeah,
but yeah, it was a great scene to start the episode off.
Yeah, I like when they find the escape, the shaft in the ceiling. Of course, it's conveniently located that far up.
Sure.
Right, and Wrecker starts throwing them up into the ceiling. That was probably one of those really great moments that represented who Wrecker was and like what he was about. And then we get to see how fond he is of blowing stuff up by the way he leaves the room. Right, so he just starts dropping off bombs in the room before they leave. I think one of the things that was really telling here was, and I know the Techno Union guys are kind of a foil for real world corporatists and the way they work, but Watt Tamber has two lines here that are very telling. One here and then one later in the episode where he says they've taken Techno Union property, and he's referring to Echo, which we've gotten this whole sense of humanizing them and of making them very much more human, and then. Now we've got this, the Techno Union has been treating him as a piece of equipment.
Well, it's interesting because then, by the same token, even though we've seen a more openness with our main characters, to the clones and relationship building with them, I feel like still at the Senate level, like Echo's basically property to them.
Right.
Yeah. He's Republic property, so their fight wouldn't probably so much be for the, intrinsic human dignity of Echo. It would be more like, no, he's ours, he's not yours.
Right. Exactly. And that's it's really telling how they're viewed. And then I think we get some of that some callbacks to that about the droids themselves also later in the episode too. Okay, so they get out and Echo says that they have a difficult exit strategy, one that they're not going to like. And when they open the door, it's Wrecker's favorite thing, the heights, and this gigantic long tube that they have to walk across to get out. And there's hopefully a ship on a landing dock on the other building that they're headed to. But before they can get there, they get trapped between two opposing groups that are kind of pincering them in. And we get an unconventional solution from Tech, who apparently records everything that happens around him. And the name of the episode comes into play where he calls in with a distress signal some Kiradaks that fly in to help save them.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And who didn't see something like this coming, though, with Wrecker's, the build up of the last few episodes.
They were way up there, right? They were way up in the sky. I had to play with it. So yeah, they managed to get on, and I like the question at this point too. How do we get on them? We jump. Oh, okay. And we've seen Anakin do stuff like this, but it's kind of it's a very tense moment for the clone troopers because that's not their cup of tea. That's not the kind of thing that they normally do. So they do jump down. They manage to fly back to the Poltex, and they kind of get away from the drone, the drones in the meantime, but they don't manage it, and the drones swoop in and start firing on the town, and the Poltex are upset, of course, that the war has been brought to them, and Rex has a rousing speech where he kind of encourages the Poltex to join them by showing what they've done to Echo, and that they're not actually neutral, but that they have joined the fight on the side of the Federation. What do you guys think about the way the Poltex respond to all of this?
Yeah, I think that just touches upon what you were just talking about, where Echo was viewed as property. He was basically the used as like his humanity was used as the reason for the Poltex to empathize with them and to understand where like this is a horrible thing that's happening, and they were able to accept it. So yeah, it with bringing back Echo's character, it's a good way for them to use him, other than just to bring him back in the fold and be one of the guys again. He's taken on a whole new meaning and a whole new experience for himself and for the others to go through.
Oh, and I was thinking I was just looking here on Wikipedia, which I always love, and I guess because these four these were played or sort of a initial storyboarding of these, right? I think Angela was saying a couple years back they played them. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So I guess the original little fortune cookie at the beginning was apparently, in war there is no such thing as neutrality, which is interesting because they changed that for this one, but he still kind of has that insofar as not saying it that kind of black and white or that bluntly, but by saying, basically, look, they're pretending to be neutral, but they've picked their side. What are you guys going to do? Like, it's time for you to pick yours. And I was thinking, like, it's interesting because that's a whole big conversation there, but I think we can see in certainly in the churches, like we talked about before, like the just war theory and stuff really deals a lot with the idea of doing everything you can to resist, to avoid war, and never to treat it lightly, but to, recognize that there are certain things that seem to arise where you not picking a side, so to speak, is kind of facilitating some great evil or that kind of thing. So I think they're kind of playing off that maybe a little bit here.
Right.
So just an interesting thing to, again, like anyone who says these are kids shows, some of them are, but they usually have some deep, things to ponder in them too.
Exactly. They're delivered in a kid format, but not necessarily kid themed entirely.
Right.
Which I love about it. I thought it was really interesting. They took away his freedom was one of the things that Rex says about him, but then they took away his humanity. And that was a really, like, to me, that was a very interesting and kind of almost jarring kind of thing for him to be saying. He's saying it to an alien. And so I'm assuming the word has a deeper meaning to everyone there, obviously, but he's also saying it about a clone.
Well, do you know what I instantly thought of? And it's almost embarrassing to bring up, but that special edition from the episode 4 special edition, when they have the Han and like the completely superfluous Han and Jabba scene.
Right.
And at the end of it, Han says to him, he's like, Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
Wonderful human being, yeah.
Which clearly wasn't, but I did think of that. I was like, humanity might be a little broader.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's an interesting, it's an interesting thing to like, I don't know where you would come up with a term like maybe a sentient or something like that. But in this case, it doesn't necessarily apply, because what they took away from him was his humanity, both physically by, turning him into this cyborg kind of thing, and also mentally by taking away all of his faculty to do anything on his own. And, it's an interesting spin to take on the droids themselves, because they are all mindless servants to this greater, central nervous system that they have. Mm-hmm. Even though we see a lot of personality in them as we go through these couple of episodes.
Yeah, and then there's even that scene we'll get to where, like, I think it was Mace Windu offers to reprogram them. So they have like a decision to make, like a existential decision, so that they have that going for them too.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that scene, because that one was very interesting. I think that's a very different take than we've seen on any of the other stuff that's been coming up. So they get into a big battle. There's a whole reinforcement troop of droids comes to the town, and they move out of the town itself to kind of hide, and then bring in an ambush on them, which is probably the only tactic that they really viably have with these guys, because most of the Poltics don't have any kind of blaster weapons. They have just kind of primitive technology, which gives another reason why they wouldn't want to enter the war. We don't want to be involved in all of this because that's way outside of our field of expertise. And eventually, the battle turns into a couple of walkers with giant laser cannons moving into the town and doing massive destruction, blowing up lots of different Poltecs and the things that the places that they're living. And so you see definitely why they wouldn't want to be involved. And there's the great leap up to the walker thing. That's a classic Star Wars move. And that's how they end up finding the way to defeat these things. And again, we get to see, Wrecker tossing people up on it.
And I loved Echo's line, like, you just like the eye contact, and he's like, still showing off, General.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that was fantastic.
You know me, Echo. Like, just...
Of course, you've been gone for 3 years, but that's not going to change. Right?
Well, real quick, because I was just thinking I thought it was a little interesting. It's kind of a sidebar, but like he's got that that bravado and that very like Errol Flynn, Robin Hood almost kind of just like leaping around. But you remember again at the very beginning of episode 3, which I don't know exactly how long that takes place after this, but not super long. And I always thought that was kind of interesting to see. Like it's. Anakin's the one who kind of like, if you remember when they fly in the ship and like Obi-Wan comes flying out of the thing, just like that. But Anakin just kind of lands and unbuckles and hops out. Like, so they play around with that a little bit, like just with his character development to the animated series and the films, as far as this, like, there is something in him that's trying to kind of get it together, but he's always just fighting this instinctive rage and, fury and all that kind of stuff. It's just really well done.
A need to act almost. That's like, I think that's his biggest failing, is that he has a need to act. He can't wait. Mm-hmm. And really for him, it seems more, and he even carries it into Vader, right? Where he's got this, this sense of needing to do something, not being able to sit by and watch and wait, which is funny because then you have the counterpost to that is Darth Sidious, who is probably the most patient creature in existence, right?
Even more than we realized.
Yeah.
Long have I waited.
Oh gosh. All the way through to the anyway. Okay. So they end up managing to take out the walkers, and Wat Tamor, again, this is the other line that he has in this one where he laments the blow to the Techno Union profit margin. Not that this is a loss in any other sense than that they're going to lose money over this. And it's this kind of exasperated sense of like, I don't really care about any of the loss of the droids that we sent out, any of the, just we lost
the
money.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about this battle scene? Like, this was a really cool action scene, I think, to kind of kick off the season.
Yeah. Anakin just kicks all kinds of ass, and I'm really, I mean, Anakin, throughout the whole Clone Wars series, I for the most part, I love how they've handled his character. It definitely makes up for the prequels for me. But yeah, it's just building on that. I mean, he's such a, and to your point, to where we're talking about like how he's constantly having that will to act, and a lot of it comes from like he just overpowers everything in his way. I mean, he went through these droids like they were nothing, and like was, the way he like the strategies to war fighting or combat that he has is like on another level. And like he's making the Bad Batch, they're just pure blunt force trauma type of guys, but Anakin can kind of weave in through there with his whatever you want to call it, his just his excellence, and his
well, I think it's reflected in that line when he's calling in the shots and he says, "I've got one." Not even like we, it's him and two other guys, right? But it's, "I've got one. Have you got the other?"
And then and he's always taking credit for it too, even when he doesn't always like deserve it. But the scene was great. Wrecker and Rex, they were great in the scene too. When Wrecker throws Rex onto another, onto one of the other clones.
It's like knowing that he doesn't like it.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Because we just established that like an hour before it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was overall it was a really, really awesome scene.
Well, and I just think that the way, that you guys are kind of describing that intensity that he has, that Anakin has. And it's just interesting because you can almost get the impression that if you were just sitting there up on like a hilltop eating popcorn, watching this fight, and you had nothing in it, but just like a general sense of kind of what's going on out there, that you could almost get this chilling sort of thing, coming over you like, man, what if he became a bad guy? Like it's almost like there is this, like you see the intensity and you're like, well, I'm sure glad he's on our side kind of attitude. And it's like, again, more foreshadowing, like, yikes, because he's not gonna, and I'm of course thinking of the end of Rogue One. Like the idea that that's the same guy, and that's him when he's already had a lot of work done. Like he's not even necessarily at his peak anymore, and that just absolute, I'm going down this hallway and you're not going to stop me. And so 20 years before Rogue One, it's, the droids. Now it's whatever, these dudes, they're the next ones. Like, I feel like it's still him, but that idea of just the twisted him,
Yeah.
And that's so cool. Yeah. And there's more of that coming up in the next episode, but yeah, that's really
and I always come back whenever we see a character in Star Wars that has had some kind of cybernetic modification. You always have to come back to that, comparison to Darth Vader as Anakin becomes. And in this one, it's really interesting to have that moment where his freedom and his humanity have been stripped away. And you see that very much in the Sith that Anakin becomes in episode 3. And so that's a really interesting kind of juxtaposition that we see here. And then, this episode closes out with this endearing scene between Rex and Echo, where they're back at the base. Things are settling down a little bit, and Rex turns to Echo thanks Rex for coming back for him, and Rex points out that that's what brothers do, and then hopes that things are going to get to be just like old times. And we see, the episode ends with us like kind of panning in on Echo's face as he repeats that line, and we're not really sure how he feels about that.
Or is that good?
Yeah,
the old times are how I got like this.
I got like this, right? I don't know how I feel about the old times, right? So, and these episodes tie right into each other, just like the last couple have, where we've got this kind of, and this is the closure episode of this whole arc, which I think, I agree that this is like, we didn't want these guys around for too long, but this was just enough time, because I think if we had them any less than this, I would have been really upset. So finding out that they were still going to be in this episode, I was like, yes, okay, good, a little bit more. That's great. And so in this one, episode 704, Unfinished Business, opens with the fortune cookie of trust placed in another is trust earned, which I had to read like 3 times because in and is look way too similar. And I was like, trust placed is another is trust what? But I like this one and the way it opens, where we have Echo has a plan, and they opens on kind of a council scene, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to finish this battle on an Axis. And Echo has a plan, and it involves the Bad Batch. Hooray. But there's some questions of his loyalty. And that's, I think, a great start to this episode, where we start to question the loyalty of someone who's had their mind attached to a computer for as long as he has. What do you guys think about this? How hard would it have been for you to bring him back into the fold?
Well, to be honest, I was surprised because, I kind of had a feeling that, this was obviously coming in some way, shape, or form. But I was honestly a little surprised that all of the Jedi were basically like, let's hear him out. I almost felt like it would kind of be the other way around, almost like, that Rex would be maybe a little more open to this. But yeah, it's just a matter of the desperation, which, Trench mentions later, desperation. It's like, well, yeah, I think they kind of are, they seem very measured, but, at that point, they're just sort of like, we'll give it a try. So I would hope that I would give him a shot. And he didn't say anything like from a TV show or movie standpoint, he didn't say anything super creepy or suspicious. That was more at the end of the last one, at that line about old times. That's where I was a little bit like, uh-oh. But that was, I don't know, it didn't really play out in this at all. Yeah. I kind of thought there would be more of that, actually.
Yeah, I think just feeling so bad for him, I would be like, I wouldn't even think about it the other way. It's like, wow, he went through some tough times, and he was, played a crucial role in the last battle. So, I don't think I would question it that much if I was in that situation.
Right. I think I wouldn't have questioned it until then there's the big ask from him to, trust him. Like, he's going to do this thing. And then they all ask him, well, how do we know what kind of commands you're giving him? And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Going to directly interface and give some battle commands. That might not be a good thing. And the other thing that I was interested in finding out is that the Techno Union, they're so interested in not cutting their profit margin that they don't even tell anyone that they've lost this asset. It's like, he's just gone. And they're like, nobody will find out for a little while. It's okay. We'll just let it be. As much as they've been depending on him, right? Yeah. And so then the plan is decided that they are going to head to one of the ships, and they're going to dock with a fake signal. So they're going to use a fake signal to be able to dock with the ship. And then they're going to upload a plan that will cause Trench and his army to do something that's going to fail, that they'll be a step ahead this time instead of a step behind. And so they load up Bad Batch, Anakin, Echo, and Rex all load up again for one last trip together. And they're on what is very clearly a Republic shuttle, and they head toward this blockade of droid shuttles, and they send out the fake signal, and the droids are at first questioning, wait a minute, is this even one of ours? Do any of ours look like this? And then the signal changes, and they're like, oh yeah, it's clearly one of ours. So I'm reminded of two things. One, it's the throwback to kind of the flight of the Tidarium shuttle when Han encourages Chewie to, I don't know, just fly casual.
Fly casual. Did you guys ever see, by the way, there's plenty of non-family friendly things in it, but the Family Guy Star Wars, where he says that, and he's like, just fly casual, and the shuttle just like goes upright, puts its wings in its pockets, and just starts very casually like walking past them.
Like, what does that look like, flying casual? I don't know. It's Han's lines, man, they're so great. And the plan works, and they manage to be able to dock with the ship, which I have no idea what docking looks like in the Star Wars universe. Just so we're all clear, like, they just kind of fly over and stick to the bottom of the ship. Okay. We're good. And then the plan is initiated, and there's another throwback here where Mace Windu starts the plan off. They're headed off to attack a location, which we later find out is the spot where they're building droid armies, and he calls for Gold Leader to head out and opens up the gates, and out comes the whole Y-Wing precursor squadron of the Gold Squadron. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty fun. Little ad there. And so then they initiate the attack, and we get to that amazing offer where Mace and Obi-Wan fall into this area where there's all of these droids on the ground, and Mace offers them a chance to surrender, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure, but I don't think we've seen this before at all. Like,
I feel like I didn't.
Yeah, totally new tactic, and it's not the best. I don't think it was presented in the best way. Like, lay down your weapons and we'll reprogram you into a more useful function. Kind of like, that's not intimidating at all.
It was almost like it was a little bit like breaking the fourth wall, kind of, in that it's just like so exposition heavy. It's just like, at this point of the Clone War, right? Just like, let's pause the show for a second. At this point, I have destroyed this many of you.
Right. I'm just going to remind you guys how destructive I am, and I am here.
And I felt like it was just the perfect amount of pause, like just enough, like, blast him. Like, okay.
Yep.
That's
so what they know, man. Well, then Obi-Wan even kind of turns around and acknowledges, he's like, well, it was worth a try. Like, I guess we can try that.
And for some reason, they all listened to him.
Yeah, they just sat there and like
just for a little bit.
They heard him out.
Anything, you know. Okay. And then you got to wonder where the clones were during all this. Like the clones have just been jetting down. They're like, so they just watch them all jet down, and they don't do anything. They just listen to Mace talk, and then nope, it's okay, blast him. Okay, all right, there we go. Now we're gonna get the fight on. And so as they do this, Echo initializes the first part of his plan. And this is where we see that the Bad Batch really doesn't trust him. They've got some questions about his loyalty, but they help him get plugged into Trench's ship, and he issues a command for all of the droids to come to the factory where the Jedi are, and that's the first spot where I think everybody's flags really go up. It's like, wait a minute, what did you do? And even the Jedi are kind of questioning this sense of what's happening here, and we see through the course of this, I think the most interesting thing is that the Bad Batch doesn't mince words about the way they feel about this at all. They're very clearly like, nah, I don't know about that, man. I'm not sure what you're up to. You know, there's definitely a lot of loyalty talk here. What do you guys think about all this?
Yeah, I thought it was, like we talked about, this was until it came to this point to where it kind of all rested into Echo's hands or his brain, whatever you want to call it, his mainframe. They only know one way to work, and that's just to blow everything up in their path and to trust his technology and his sort of way of being able to mask the transmission and be the algorithm and all that sort of stuff is beyond their understanding. So something they don't understand is not something they're automatically going to trust, even though it's seemingly a person that they've trusted before. And ultimately as we'll see, he puts their mind at ease. But I thought it was and even me watching the episode, I'm like, yeah, anything can happen now. I mean, as much as I empathize with Echo's character to this point, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, the crap could totally hit the fan right now. And we find out that there's this plot twist, he's been, in their pocket the whole time. So, it was tense.
Yeah, I did not know how it was going, and I wrote it down too, because I love that, stealth reference. I still keep laughing about that. I hate that word. Like he's just, the idea of like it just goes against everything in him. But it's what the team's doing, so he's like, okay, and of course, there's more where that came from later for him. But
yeah, Wrecker wants to blow stuff up, man.
He does.
That's his thing.
That's what he does.
And so Echo's got the plug-in. He's made everything look kosher. They made the signal look like it was from Skako Minor, so that nothing seemed out of place. But Trench makes a turn on us and says, "Yeah, that's why I don't trust algorithms." And he has a backup plan, kind of a if everything else fails, we'll make sure that we're going to win the day here. And his plan is that he's put a bomb in the fusion reactor. And boy, that bomb looked menacing. That thing looked really
overkill.
Really
came to mind.
Exactly. And it's shielded, of course, because why would you not have that kind of thing? And then so he starts off this plan to activate the bomb, and chaos just breaks loose amongst the group. They start trying to communicate back and forth with the Jedi and tell them, hey, you might have won the day down there. Once all the droids are dismantled because of Echo's final plan, now they've got to figure out how to dismantle this bomb too. And so they're trying to get the code, and Echo thinks he can do it, but Anakin has another plan. And I think this is the moment where we really start to see the tone of the show begin to change.
Mm-hmm.
So Anakin has decided he's going to make sure that Trench helps him stop the bomb.
And what happened a little quicker than even I expected. I thought there'd be more of like, oh, look at him going deeper, and but it was like the moment that Trench starts to play the whole like you're a Jedi card.
Yeah.
Just off with the arms, and like I don't have that weakness. I'm like, oh man, okay.
Yeah, that it tanked fast, didn't it?
Yeah. The Anchorman thing is like really escalated quickly.
Exactly.
It was like, yikes.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah,
but it was interesting because, Trench is the one that brings it up. Trench is the one that says, you're a Jedi. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Anakin sets him straight, and so that was a tough moment. But and just before that whole thing happens, Trench turned around and he was with his commander droid that was with him, and he was talking about getting everything ready for the next assault. So they're already moving to that next thing because they really do feel like they've got everything in the pocket. Because once you can beat the tactics, and the Jedi aren't going to do anything, they're not going to be aggressive.
Right.
You've got to keep pushing the battle toward them because otherwise they're not going to make that next move.
I feel like Anakin's justification there too, one of the many would probably be something like, let's see the algorithm predict this.
So they get the numbers. Most of the numbers come from Echo just before they send some feedback back down to him and knock him out. And that's why Anakin has to actually confront Trench and make him give up the last number. And he does so in a very violent fashion. And then after he does, he finishes Trench off because Trench manages to stick him with like an electro prod. And I don't know, do you guys think it really threatened Anakin at all? That thing that he got hit with?
I think he looked mad.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest with you, because you know how like they again, because I keep thinking of because how this is all leading up into episode 3. When he executes Dooku, he's clearly kind of worked up about it because I think there is still something in him that knows there's some line in there that he's crossed as far as like an unarmed person or that kind of thing.
Right.
But there's a pun there, by the way. I didn't mean to do, but Dooku's he's unhanded him, but yeah, that idea of this, there's still a little bit of justification, like, well, he attacked me, but it's like, yeah, but did you have to do that? And he seems totally okay with it. And it was creepy because you know what it really reminded me of was him in Empire Strikes Back, like on his just cold, calm killing spree, which is it's not, I don't want to say funny in the context of that movie. It fits his character so much, like every scene there's another Imperial dropping dead, and he's just like, apology accepted, Captain Nita.
Yeah.
But that, it's like, this is a little bit like that, I thought, like this little taste for just someone's in my way, they're out of my way now. They're not even like worth getting worked up about, So what does he say? He's like, pleasure doing business with you, Admiral. And he's already dead or dying.
Right.
I'm like, I don't think Obi-Wan would do that, No,
there was like really no reason to kill him.
Yeah. It was very satisfying though. It was very satisfying.
Yeah,
well, just because he's a huge spider, nothing else.
So. Oh gosh, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I was okay with it.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Okay. This give him the spiders. Yeah. Okay, noted. This is the moment where I felt the dark tone that is coming up was really juxtaposed with the show itself, because as Admiral Trench's body falls to the ground, there is this comical sort of boop or like a womp kind of sound that plays where it's almost cartoony, like, oh look, another thing fell. and we see this like it's put up against this really, really dark moment for Anakin. Like it's very clear that he's gone way beyond being a Jedi, and I thought that was an interesting feel. It tasted very odd in the way that it happened. But it's Disney, and they got to make sure that it's not too horribly violent, right? So I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So then there's the escape scene. They've got to get off the ship, and in the moment when Anakin is in the control room, he makes sure that he's taking care of Wrecker and grabs out the one thing that every ship needs to have, which is a self-destruct button.
Yeah, right.
And I guess if you got to scuttle your ship, that's the way you're going to do it, right? But so he grabs out the little remote for that, and then there's this awesome shootout / challenge scene between Wrecker and Crosshair, who we've seen have trouble with each other before. Yeah. And now they finally get that. You finally see that rivalry kind of come to its fruition, and Wrecker goes out in the middle of the hallway and destroys a bunch of droids with no weapons whatsoever. And then Crosshair just has to outdo him.
What is he? Doesn't he yell like, "Here comes the wrecking ball"? Or
Here comes the wrecking ball.
It's like WWF or something. Like just.
It fits his character so well, though. He just like charges down the hallway, throwing droids left and right. So and then my only problem with this scene was was Crosshair's use of mirrors to reflect blaster bolts.
It's all he needs, a mirror.
Not quite.
Is that it? Like why isn't everyone not dressed in mirror armor here? What is? But it's really cool. It's a cool looking scene, nonetheless. Very much a cool looking scene. And they manage to make it back to the ship, and finally Wrecker gets his moment to set off an explosion as Anakin hands him the remote. How'd you guys feel about that?
He's like crying. I just love it. Like, he's so like the thing before with like the turkey leg and the gonk droid. Like if one of those things had been missing, it just wouldn't have been right. And that, like if he hadn't literally cried, like this is the happiest day of my life. Like it's just he's like a big kid who likes to smash things.
That's it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very, very satisfying. I mean, polishing off the darkness of what Anakin did, it pays off with not only getting rid of Trench, but, giving Wrecker this gift, to blow everyone up. It was, it was really cool.
The fireworks kind of at the end of the episode, right? And so then they manage to land. They get back to the main Republic area, and when they do, the Jedi are standing by with the whole group of them and telling them how great a job they've done and offering them accolades and saying there's definitely medals in it for all of you. And then I thought it was really interesting what happens here, because you get the sense that the Bad Batch is outsiders the whole time, and you get the sense that they've kind of grown to be outsiders, but you don't really know how comfortable they are with it until this moment,
right?
When Rex starts heading off with the Jedi. Echo starts heading that way too, and he turns around and notices that the Bad Batch is kind of like, that's not for us.
Yeah, accolades.
Yeah.
He's like,
we don't do this for medals.
What do you say we do for the thrill? Or something?
For the thrill of it, yeah. We don't do it for the thrill. And you see in that moment that they're not only are they outsiders, but they're like, they love it. They relish that. They accept that. And then I thought this is really the only way you could end this whole series was with them accepting Echo and saying, hey, look, if you ever want it, there's a spot in the Bad Batch for you. Because he now fits that kind of Bad Batch moniker. There's something just enough off about him. He's just unique enough that he doesn't fit the whole clone concept anymore.
Do you guys remember if because I haven't seen the episode in a long time, but the one where they sort of preemptively discover at least some of the marks of the forthcoming Order 66, and some of them remove their chips. And I don't remember who did that, like which clones. I have to go back and check, because I don't remember if Rex was one of them or not. But then he's in Rebels, when they link back up with him when he's old and everything. You kind of get that impression. So the reason I bring it up is I'm just wondering, all speculation on my part, but, with some of the rumors we've heard about possibly some of this later part of this season being contemporaneous with Order 66, to really drive the drama of it. I mean, personally, I think there's a real big open door here for like bringing these guys back in, right? Maybe even to have them resist it somehow, or kind of have this big glorious send off, because as far as we know, we don't see them again after this time period. So, and I feel like I feel pretty connected to them, just in terms of where the storytelling has gone, that I kind of feel like there would maybe be something missing if we didn't see them again. Yeah. So that's just my take on it. But we'll you are
see. Right. Rex was one of the clones that took the chip out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because he brags in Rebels, like when Kanan is understandably apprehensive about a clone, post Order 66, and I think we did see in some of the trailers, if I remember correctly, for this season, like a young Kanan clipped there a little bit, that he has some role in this. So I'm just really excited for all these potential connections to everything else, to the prequels, but also to Rebels and just all that's built in now that really wasn't last time they were doing Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool too.
You have Dave Filoni being one of the one of the producers on this one to kind of be able to tie that all back in. So.
And potentially, maybe some Mandalorian stuff too, because we know that's going to be the Siege of Mandalore probably has to have some connections with other things coming up. So
yeah,
big opportunity.
Absolutely.
And plenty of episodes to go. So
oh man, how many are there supposed to be in this season?
Is it? I think is it 12, right?
I think it is.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
And Ahsoka's coming up, and so it'll be.
I think like you guys were saying, this is a great way to kick it off. This was a good arc. It was just long enough to kind of remind us where we are in the series, because I think that was something that you could have run afoul of just diving right back in, and then definitely the reminder at the end of this series of Anakin's fall and where he's headed was really good. But then to start the series off with Anakin's humanity was really interesting too. Like that connection with Padme and how that played out, and then to come to this at the end of the series was a really interesting series to take. All right, so what do you guys think? Any final thoughts?
I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, it was just a lot of fun. It was a great arc, and like you guys were saying, I think I didn't really get around to finally watching Clone Wars till about a year or so ago, so it's still pretty fresh. But I remember what it was like, when I was watching, for me, new episodes and how you kind of get to know the show, but because every show's a little different. And so as much as I love the other series, in fact, I kind of still feel like Rebels might be my favorite of the animated series overall. But I don't know. I mean, it felt like, they didn't just throw you right back into where we left off exactly. It really kind of made me rediscover, in that sense, what it feels like to watch new Clone Wars episodes, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it had that authenticity, and it's not just Resistance, it's not just Rebels, it's its own thing. And I think they've really captured that well, and rebooting this, and bringing us back into this new season. So
me too. I don't have much to add. I think we covered everything. It's a great start to the season, and we're left with the more of that Anakin's darkness bleeding through, and we'll definitely obviously see more of that, and we'll see how far in an animated series Disney's willing to go. But like we've seen so far, it does get pretty dark, and I'm excited to see all the twists and turns, and where it could possibly coexist with Mandalorian, and how it ties in, to the prequels. So yeah, we'll see.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the only thing I would say to add to it is talking about how this feels very much like the Clone Wars. Each one of these series has had such a great, unique animation style to it. Mm-hmm. And they definitely adopted that animation style and stuck very well with it. And I think it just feels like it fits perfectly. And that's a big part of it, is that kind of the animation style stayed true to the way the way the Clone Wars was before.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And that's it from us. What did you think of these episodes of the Clone Wars? Be sure to email us or comment on our Facebook or Twitter page and let us know. You can email us any feedback at starwars@sqpn.com, and find StarQuest on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, and on Twitter @SQPN. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Star Wars, including Aaron W., Patrick G., Lisa C., Kyle P., and Terry D. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Star Wars, please visit sqpn.com/Star Wars. We'll be back in 2 weeks when we'll be reviewing episodes 5 and 6 of Season 7, so be sure to tune in to Disney Plus and keep up on the new season before listening to us. Until then, Andrew Hermes, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Thank you. Everyone be safe out there.
All right, Mike Creevy, thank you as well.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'm Thomas Sanherho. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.